Hello, and welcome to another World Health Network Business Spotlight. My name is Ben Calderwood. On the Spotlight, we speak to business owners and workers about how to operate COVID-safer businesses during the pandemic. Today, we're joined by Hillary Hoffman, who, along with her husband Neil, owns Federal Street Books in Greenfield, Massachusetts. Welcome to the broadcast, Hillary. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Ben. I'm glad to be here.
So we're delighted to have you. Let's go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us more about Federal Street Books, and describe the COVID mitigations that you've put in place at the shop.
Absolutely. So my husband and Neil and I bought an existing it's probably about 30 or maybe even 40-year-old bookstore in downtown Greenfield, which is out in Western Massachusetts, in the late summer of 2019. And we had some renovations to do. It was a great store, but it was the kind of store where if you walked through it, something might fall down on your head. So we did a little bit of a clean out and did some renovations over time, and opened in October of 2019. Um, and then, of course, we hit the pandemic in March and shut down. And during shutdown, we made a lot of additional upgrades and changes. Actually, the window that you see here, we replaced that display window in the front, and now the window is actually open and close, which is a boon for ventilation. You'll see our sort of handmade mask required for entry sign on the door,
Mm.
um, and our little mask station here. And we have free surgicals, auras, and N95s. We give kids free N95s. And I'd say we've given away hundreds of free masks since this all began. This is one of our air cleaners. We have two of these guys in the front and the back of the store. We're sort of a long, narrow space. And the only windows we have are in the door in the front. So we try to keep the air circulating as much as we can. This is a Corsi Rosenthal box that our friend Joe made for us. And we have one here and a second one on the lower floor of the store, which is really storage area, but it still helps with the circulation. And this is just a little example of our shelving. During the pandemic, we kind of pivoted to carry new books as well as used, and just to make our selection a little more inclusive. We specialize in science fiction, fantasy, and horror, but we also have a lot of fiction and nonfiction, particularly social justice, some political books. You can sort of see our little skeleton mascot guys here in the photo just a little bit. We are, let's see, there we go. We dressed them up. I put them out in October for Halloween, but I gave them winter hats and maybe some festive holiday wear, and I think they're going to morph into carrying some disco balls pretty soon, but they're scattered throughout the store.
Mhm.
Oops, sorry. Um, and yeah, I mean, I would say that in addition to what I mentioned about mitigation, during the pandemic, we had online ordering. We did free delivery all over Greenfield, contactless, and I still offer that. I still also can do private shopping for people. And we have something called a date night where you can have a private hour for two in the back of our store in our mystery section, and I serve tea, and you're right near one of our air cleaners, and you get little free gifts. So those have been popular for folks too.
Date night at the bookstore.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. You get a little private shopping in, a little time to catch up. I stay out of the way, have mood lighting. So yeah.
So talk about some of the unique challenges, you faced at Federal Street in terms of maintaining these mitigations throughout the pandemic.
Well, certainly as a new business, from the get-go, we had a little trouble sort of seeing a linear plan of growth and gaining our footing. So I'd say the initial issue was, the shutdown, which of course I fully supported and we needed to do it, but we really pivoted the business due to that, because we strongly felt the need to protect our customers. We kept masking going. Um, and I would say, of course, that impacted our customer base. A lot of our customers have been great, and we have seen growth year over year. But along with that, there's been pushback. There's been some conflict. I've, the online complaining. You know, I become during the day sort of the mask police. I have to have, be at the door and say, I have a free mask, and I put a face on it and I'm positive, and most of the time it's okay. But that does impact your day to day, how you run the store. I can't sort of be off site in the back, or, if I hear the door open. And then, the darkest side of this is when people push back or get upset about it. I would right after the holidays, I, for the first time, had to call the police on a gentleman who refused to leave and was screaming at me, and very aggressively, to the point of it being assaultive. And I'm lucky that was the first time I've had to do it. Um, but it's it certainly is a little demoralizing to have those encounters, and also to see people walking away simply because we are asking to help protect ourselves and others through this policy. So that's certainly a challenge. And of course, there are unanticipated expenses, and we're, of course, committed to doing that. But we do go through a lot of masks, and and again, I mean, there are mask blocks and there are ways to help with that. But it definitely changed the course of the business. And being a new business, we didn't qualify for a lot of the aid that existing businesses did during the shutdown. So,
See.
yeah.
Uh, I, I mean, you shared a little bit with us about some of the pushback you've experienced, of course, that one episode of the gentleman where you had to call the police. I'm curious to know, in addition to that, just broadly speaking, how have your customers, other clients, responded to these COVID mitigation measures? I suppose positive as well as negative.
Yeah. And certainly, we've had great support from people. And, the flip side to a negative experience is having someone come in and say, I'm in chemotherapy and this is the only place I can
Wow.
go to leave my house at this point, and you feel both terrible, but also, validated in what you're doing, because I want to hold space for people that are being increasingly pushed out of public places, because we can't seem to, as a country, look out for each other, in a way that includes everyone. I have health concerns myself, fairly serious ones. But even if I didn't have those concerns as a business owner and as the only one running the shop, if I get sick, the shop shuts down. I don't make money. So, most customers of our customers have understood this, and I'm really grateful for that. Um, and I'm really committed to providing that space. I think inclusivity is just so important. Even if we didn't have a pandemic, I would be making that shop a welcoming space for people. But certainly the centers around disabled and compromised access.
Mhm. I think this is a great example of just efforts about inclusivity, community care. That aspect is critical, gratifying to hear. Do you have anything else about your experiences at Federal Street with COVID that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I would also say, as a business owner, it gave me that the pandemic and resulting contact with people and support from other booksellers across the country. Um, it gave us a time to sort of network and also pivot the business and think maybe a little more proactively about where we wanted the business to go. Believe it or not, as we were reacting to a pandemic, we also were able to do some planning and make changes to the business, adding the new books, making new connections with people. Certainly, I've appreciated that very much, and feeling a little more rooted in the community, with people who share, our commitment.
Hmm.
And our sales have gone up, not necessarily in a linear way, but we've certainly grown as a business. So I'm grateful for that, and I continue to sort of reflect on it.
All right. This has been a really great conversation. We've been chatting today with Hillary Hoffman from Federal Street Books in Greenfield, Massachusetts. I want to thank you, Hillary, for sharing your experience as a business owner, telling us about the efforts you've made to keep you and your husband and all of your customers and the community safe during this time. Where can people find you online and, of course, in person if they'd like to learn more about Federal Street?
Yeah, we're downtown. We're in downtown Greenfield, Massachusetts at 8 Federal Street. You can see us online and learn all about new books and all the goofy things that we do at federalstreetbooks.com, or on Instagram and Facebook at Federal Street Books, all one word.
Great. Okay. Thank you again. Like Hillary said, check them out at federalstreetbooks.com as well as on social at that same address. You can learn more about the efforts of the World Health Network at whn.global. We are a global community working to end the pandemic as a global health threat. We hope you'll visit our website, learn more about what we do, and consider joining us. Thanks again so much. Thanks again to Hillary, and we'll see everybody at the next broadcast.
Thank you.